everyone! Today we will be talking about the most disliked Kodocha character, Sengoku-sensei, who makes his debut during the middle school years. Sengoku is the science teacher for Akito, Tsuyoshi, and Eia's class. There are many reasons why Sengoku is hated by the fandom, so today we will be breaking down his character and try to understand his motivations as well as his personality. One could argue that Sengoku is the only character in the entire series that feels like a true antagonist, as he is always making life difficult for Akito and his friends. For this video, I am going to look at both the manga and anime versions of Sengoku, but mainly focus on the manga since it's the source material. Both versions feature different scenarios with Sengoku, while the manga gives us the best insight on his character. Keep in mind there will be spoilers for both the anime and manga in this video, and I would also like to put a trigger warning here as well. With all of that said, let's take a look at the aforementioned Sengoku-sensei. We are first introduced to Sengoku early on in Volume 5 of the manga. Immediately, Sengoku comes across as very strict and unforgiving. He already bears a hatred for Akito after he yells at him for coming into class late. With a sneer on his face, Sengoku reveals to the class that Akito was a troublemaker during elementary school. Akito, never one to hold back his words, tells Sengoku that he looks like he is getting enjoyment from mocking him, and his sensei and the rest of the class are caught off guard by this. Trying to keep the peace, Tsuyoshi speaks up and says Akito doesn't mean what he said, when Akito makes sure to make it clear that he meant every word. This causes Tsuyoshi to go into a rage, and Sengoku's belief that these two will be the primary troublemakers of the school is validated in his mind. Akito gives Sengoku backtalk frequently. One day while doing an experiment with chemicals, Akito questions how the assignment is going to help him in the future. This irritates Sengoku, but he really grows upset after he catches Akito and his friend Yunchi laughing about the fact that Akito has a girlfriend, who at this point is Fuka. Sengoku gets a fierce look in his eyes, commenting that Akito flaunting her around school doesn't make him a man, but makes him look rude and vulgar. Clearly Sengoku does not like Akito at all, not taking into context that during this conversation with Yunchi, Akito wasn't boasting about his girlfriend at all, and Yunchi was teasing him about it the whole time. Out of anger, Akito responds by bringing up Sengoku's toupee, that he had previously seen and wasn't sure if he was going to tell anybody, which shows that Akito is getting really fed up with Sengoku. Akito justifies his wig comment by telling Sengoku that he brought up Akito's personal life first, which gives him the right to talk aggressively back. After Tsuyoshi tries defending Akito and the whole class gets rowdy, Sengoku tells Akito to meet him in the prep room after class. This is where things become really hostile, as Sengoku immediately uses violence to punish Akito, punching him right in the gut. Sengoku threatens to change Akito's grades if he tells anyone that he attacked him. Akito shows no fear in the situation, making it clear to his sensei that his threats are meaningless. Sengoku then confesses to his hatred for Akito, and we learn that it's because Akito reminds him of the guy who bullied him when he was in school. Akito realizes that Sengoku is taking out all of his pent-up anger on him when Sengoku throws another punch. Akito is able to dodge when he hits Sengoku in the face, which was a mistake, as Sengoku would use this against him without letting anyone know that Akito was just defending himself from his teacher who started the fight. Akito gets suspended for hitting Sengoku, which at first he doesn't seem to mind as he gets some time off from school. Over time, we see that this whole situation is really getting to Akito, as Sana is not around to help him through it, and he can't do anything at karate because they found out he was fighting in school. It's obvious Akito is in a lot of pain, as he is more easily angered by his friends and tries really hard to be a good boyfriend to Fuka. While on a double date, Fuka is picked on by two teenage boys over some money that she found at the arcade. Akito goes to defend her and gets into a big fight with these boys. Akito and his friends escape the scene, hoping that no one they knew would find out about it, as it would result in Akito getting expelled from school. Things only get worse for Akito after he returns to school when a note is found written by his classmate Kazuyuki, stating that he is running away with intentions of unaliving himself. Akito is called into the office with Sengoku, Kazuyuki's mother, and some of the other teachers, where Sengoku takes this opportunity to bring up his past in order to humiliate him in front of everyone, and convince them that he is a terrible person. He even goes as far to say that Akito is worthless. It's obvious that Akito is very affected by this, as he chooses to go after Kazuyuki once he figures out where he is, via a clue in his diary. After everything that Akito has been through, Sengoku's words brought up painful feelings and memories that Akito was trying to move on from. And because of the humiliation in front of the other teachers and his peers, Akito felt that he needed to make amends for his past behavior by going after Kazuyuki and bringing him home. After finding Kazuyuki in the woods, Akito is stabbed by him and loses so much blood that he briefly passes away while in the hospital. Once Akito is revived and is able to leave the hospital, he realizes how badly damaged his arm is, and he struggles with most of his daily activities, including karate, which suffers greatly as a result. Back at school, Sengoku asks Akito to write the results from their assignment on the chalkboard. Tsuyoshi immediately intervenes and says he will do it instead when Akito stops him and makes his way to the board. Tsuyoshi ponders if Sengoku knows about Akito's arm and doesn't believe his sensei would be so cruel to embarrass Akito like that in front of the class. Sengoku asks Akito to write his answers on the board again, as he is unable to read Akito's writing the first time. It's apparent that Sengoku still harbors negative feelings towards Akito and doesn't care that he is struggling. In fact, there is almost a feeling behind Sengoku's eyes that would imply he enjoys watching Akito struggle, similar to what Akito said before about his teacher who seems to be enjoying tormenting him. After this, Sana finds out about how Sengoku is treating Akito and goes to confront him in the prep room. Sengoku reveals how tired he is of them and that he never wanted to be a teacher in the first place. Sana angrily leaves the room and tells Akito what happened between her and Sengoku, and Akito's reaction seems to surprise Sana. Akito responds calmly and tells her that he would have turned out like Sengoku or even Kazuyuki if he didn't have Sana in his life. A very powerful moment between the two, which definitely acts as a turning point in the series. We never see Sengoku again throughout the rest of the manga. There is no resolve or redemption for him, which is why he's the most disliked Kodocha character. He never gets over his bitterness, and even with his little backstory that he has, it's hard to feel sympathy for him because he refused to change his ways, even after everything that happened with Akito. All we really know about him is that he was relentlessly bullied in high school, and that is his sole motivation for how he treats Akito, and probably any other student that reminds him of his bully. As far as readers know, Sengoku never confessed to hitting Akito first to anyone, which also shows that he has no remorse for his actions. With seemingly no ambitions or feelings of empathy, Sengoku remains a bitter and twisted man to the very end. Before we go into his character analysis, I would like to discuss his role in the anime. I won't spend a lot of time on it since it's something that isn't from the source material, but I think it's worth discussing as I feel the way the anime handled Sengoku was actually a lot better in some ways. Like the manga, our introduction to Sengoku in the anime gives us the impression that he will be a mean and strict teacher. In the anime, Sengoku warns Fuka's parents about Akito because of his past as a bully, in an attempt to sabotage Akito's relationship with Fuka. Sengoku's role becomes more prominent in the final arc of the series, the Karate Club arc, when he tries to get Akito expelled because his classmate Nakao ran away and mentioned how Akito caused him to do it in a note. However, Sengoku hides the other half of the note where Nakao asks his sensei to come and find and rescue him. Fuka exposes this in front of the teachers and students during a meeting, and at the end of the arc, Sengoku resigns from his position and leaves the school. While I think that the manga does a better job at using Sengoku to move the central story forward, I think the anime gives us closure when it comes to this character. The end of Sengoku's character arc ends with him resigning and leaving the school, a much more satisfying conclusion than his sudden disappearance in the manga. I understand why Sengoku was written out of the manga, as his role was fulfilled in the main story. Akito's interactions with Sengoku were important, albeit extremely painful for him. But he needed to go through that to grow and understand how important Sana was to him by seeing how people who don't have someone like her act and treat others around them if they are suffering like he was. Ultimately, the weight of Sengoku in the manga is crucial to the story. The anime offers a solid conclusion to the character of Sengoku, however, he ultimately added nothing to the other characters around him in my opinion. I also doubt that we'd see the impact Sengoku had on Akito if Kodocha got a third season, as the events leading up to the Nakao situation just don't compare to how heavy things are in the manga. Even with Sengoku's brief time in the story of Kodocha, there is a lot we can learn through him and how he affected the other characters, especially Akito. In previous videos, I discussed Akito's desire for power early on in the series. It's not obvious at first glance, but Akito's desire to lead the boys in his class and assert his dominance most likely stems from his chaotic home life, where he's treated like a monster by his family. This left Akito feeling unimportant as well as unlovable. The same can be said for Sengoku. We don't know anything about Sengoku's childhood, other than the fact that he was bullied during high school. Akito's observation that he could have ended up like Sengoku if he didn't have Sana implies that the two are more similar than meets the eye. Akito was bullied at home, but acts as the bully at school. Sengoku was bullied during his childhood and unfortunately never found happiness anywhere else, and takes out his frustration on students who remind him of his bully. From Akito's similar experience, we can also theorize that Sengoku also deals with feelings of unworthiness and self-hatred. After all, and as far as we know, he never had someone like Sana to show him how toxic he was being, and continued acting out his aggressions on students he disliked. Akito also wanted to feel powerful because he lacked power in what I would consider the most important aspect of his life, and wanted to have that feeling elsewhere to cope with his low self-esteem. After Sengoku makes his quiet exit from the story, I was left with this question: why did he become a teacher in the first place if he hates it? It was something that confused me after Sana confronted him. However, when we take Sengoku's need for power into account, it's understandable why he chose this career. According to many social psychologists, people with a high drive for power will often get themselves into positions of leadership. This allows them to have authority and influence over a group of people. Based on this observation, I think Sengoku's sole motivation to become a teacher was to have authority over others in his life, since it seems he was never able to have authority over his own life. It makes sense as to why he would take on a leadership role with people much younger than him. He has more power over them because of their age. I imagine Akito was not the first victim to Sengoku's abuse, and Sengoku most likely got away with keeping students silent by using physical violence and threats. Luckily, Akito is immune to this, and it's most likely because he strongly dislikes oppressive authorities over him, and he also probably understands Sengoku's motivations on some level, making it easier for him to bypass his threats. Before I conclude my analysis, I want to discuss the impact Sengoku had on Akito. This whole situation really shows just how much Akito has grown, as the damage Sengoku inflicts upon him isn't as devastating as it probably would have been if it occurred during the elementary school days. I think Akito having more self-confidence at this point and a stable friend group helped him deal with the abuse from his teacher. While Akito hits his lowest point after getting suspended from school, he comes out of everything with an understanding of Sengoku's behavior and motivations, which makes any negative emotions he has easier to deal with. The fact that Sana helped him get a better grasp on himself probably helped him let go of the pain Sengoku inflicted on him. His issues with Sengoku also emphasized how strongly he feels for Sana, and just how much she has changed his life, seeing how bitter Sengoku is as he appears to have no one he loves in the same way Akito loves Sana. While the effects an abusive teacher can have on a student can be devastating, Akito comes out of it a much stronger person than he was before. For this section of the video, I want to take a look at how the story could have been changed to make Sengoku a redeemable character. This section will just be my speculation, and if you agree or disagree, please comment below. One thing I would like to note is the heavy contrast in how Sana and Sengoku perceive Akito. Sengoku is an adult set in his ways, which is probably why he sees Akito as a troublemaker and nothing more. So let's then think about Sana. Sana learns very early on in the series that all people have good and bad points. She sees the world in shades of gray, while Sengoku sees the world in black and white. We can conclude that Sengoku probably never had experiences with anyone that showed him that people can have dual natures, which is why he refuses to acknowledge Akito's good points. If we take the physical abuse from Sengoku out of the equation, is Sengoku more redeemable? I don't think so. He would still have been very judgmental with Akito and written him off as a delinquent. In order for Sengoku to become redeemable, he would have to walk down the same path as Sana, if that makes sense. The turning point for Sengoku would have been Akito's willingness to save Kazuyuki, even after being stabbed by him. However, even after that, Sengoku still holds on to the hatred for Akito, never backing down with his relentless bullying. He never comes to the conclusion Sana did, that Akito is a troubled kid who just needs a little more time and patience to be understood. After the Kazuyuki incident, Sengoku could have become a redeemable character if he apologized to Akito and acknowledged that he was judging a book by its cover. However, it would still be extremely hard given the fact that he was willing to physically attack his student, a child. If the manga did what the anime did by making Sengoku resign and leave the school, I think that would have given us the best resolution. The combination of an apology and Sengoku's resignation would have been a better outcome. However, like I said before, I understand why mangaka Miho Obana decided to quietly write him out of the story. He wasn't necessary anymore, and it would have been very, very hard to redeem his character after what he did. The introduction of Sengoku and Kodocha is crucial to the growth of Akito and his bond with Sana. Being the only character without any likable qualities through the entire series, Sengoku is still a very important character with depth to him. Unlike the rest of the cast, Sengoku's motivations do not redeem him, as he never learns or understands how his actions negatively impact Akito and his other students. It would have been interesting if Sengoku was more developed throughout the manga, but I don't believe it was necessary. I like to think of Sengoku as more of a plot device than a character, as his main purpose is to move the central story forward, as I mentioned before. As much as I love how Kodocha makes all of its characters likable and redeemable in some way, it's also important to highlight characters who are irredeemable, as it's a good reflection of reality. Unfortunately, some people never change their toxic behavior or understand the weight of their actions. Sometimes, like with Akito and Sana, it takes someone to intervene and show you how toxic you are being in order for you to change. Like Akito observes with Sengoku, he never had anyone to show him how horrible his behavior was. After all, Sengoku hides his abusive tendencies from the other teachers, and it's probably a side of him that only his students see. And at that age, I imagine it's hard for them to speak up about it, worried that their grades might suffer as a result or the abuse will get worse. I think even with Akito and Sana standing up to Sengoku, he is still so entrenched in his ways, and no one, especially children, are not going to change him. Before I end this video, I want to say that if you're going through a similar situation as Akito did with Sengoku, please speak up. Talk to your parents, caregivers, school administration, or anyone who has the authority to help you. Abuse is never okay and never justifiable, and there is always a way out of it. I will link some resources in the description below that may help you if you are going through this. As always, thanks for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more Kodocha content in the future. See ya!